powerfully restrained, strong male. It's lovely. He's either finished or been going to school for law. It's really not that you have to do that. I get that sense that he's coming from a really disciplined place. But again, not flaunting his education. This is the Batusai channel, auditing channel. But I've never really found anyone else on YouTube that really is worth my time. But yeah, you could throw in the flag of, this. I have trouble with, the answer to the question, is this really encouraging critical thinking? Then whatever the brand is, then that's where I say I have trouble with this. And but that's not just up to the brand. That's up to the audience. If the audience is just not, you would say, not taking the trouble to think critically about what they're seeing, isn't that their fault? Should the brand be the moral agent in that? And that's kind of what you would call a codependent relationship. It's also, in so much as you feel offended by that relationship, those people actually are forming a conspiracy against you. Like, a codependent relationship can be codependent because it forms a conspiracy. And accepting such things, though they be untrue, the audience is laundering them. By consenting to a brand, you can consent to a brand just by not objecting to it. A media can be, and this is difficult for humans because we spend our lives being overwhelmed by our school teachers, that something can come and literally stimulate the human sensory apparatus so much. However accustomed, we might be accustomed to, 10 espressos every morning. You can stimulate the human sensory perception so much that it's hard to fault the sensory apparatus for enjoying the insult to its system and feeling like it's still thinking critically, even though it can't. And probably convinced before, during, and after that it's its own fault, and don't blame the messenger, don't blame the media that may or may not be taking advantage of this fact. And if in any place media knows it's taking advantage by the assault upon your senses, which sounds like a war, or used to, or hasn't thought about because everybody loves it and nobody complains, still it remains quite an onslaught to the human sensory system. It's no longer really a legitimate relationship. But if everyone is happy with it, then you're becoming more offensive to me, because you're not using your mind on a regular basis in order to feel like everything's normal. If I tried using your mind, you'd probably get angry at me because I'd be ruining the fun. I'd be like, come on, son, I know you've been enjoying this, but it's time to come back to normal. So you're into theatrical, kind of a psychopomp with the media. You get to be the person who likes it, and you feel smart, and you feel good, and you feel connected. And for me to just out and out say that that's not real is in itself offensive. And it is, to say that because you listen to media, you're stupid or this. I listen to it as well. And that the job of any media, you shouldn't assume, is to kind of be as nourishing as fresh air and a discussion with your father in terms of the best and safest function of your human sensory apparatus, given everything that it deals with every day. Watching a really violent movie can seem like adequate catharsis. Absolutely doesn't mean it's the best thing for your nervous system. It might be you want to watch 25% of that movie, watch the rest the next 3 days, and have a cup of tea and sit outside. Have your boom boom violence. Watch Bruce Willis to the point that he's stepping on some glass, and then go outside and have a cup of chamomile tea, and go for a walk in your bare feet in your garden, and things like that. You just break it up a little bit, not because it's a new age concept, not because I'm a qigong master, which I am in the next dimension. I'm a qigong master. So in the next dimension, I could kick your ass. That doesn't even sound right. We need to break up these things every day, all day long. I'm in nature, and I miss it. I come out and I take my first gulp of air, and it's pure medicine. Everything starts operating better for me when I get fresh air. Everything, right? It's so much more important than all the media. Does that sound fair? It's honest, it's fair, it's there. It is what it is. I like criticizing media. I do see it as black magic. I do enjoy it as much as the next person. Yes, we're meant to enjoy it. Um, if we have some difficulty in noticing and or wanting to exert more boundaries with it or come at it, from a different angle, when a TV is just shooting at you the moon landing and you're sitting there, transfixed, we don't assume that you're in the same state of mind as someone 50 years later who knows that it's fake. But how could you be? And it's like we can, without saying people were stupid, like groups of people are always stupid. Like we're all stupid in groups. Like to be able to object to the accusations of posterity as to how fucking we are, right? We're basically swinging from trees and eating our own asshole compared to 1,000 years from now. We're all gonna look stupid because groups are always stupid. Groups of people, just get over it, right? Right? Forgive yourself because you can't control that anyway, and then try not to be as stupid as the next person. Don't walk around saying, "Yeah, you're stupid," because we aren't. We're just trying to survive. We're doing a few of the things that people do. We don't know why. We just do them. Different people do different things. There are some difficulties in Western society or white culture, so to say that it's even. There's ways that we could start to frame white culture as something that really is not like what culture used to be, because it's so artificially stimulated. But nor can you dismiss it as being a very powerful cultural entity. There are things about it that are similar that you could study in what white people laugh at, how much they work, various sayings like, two things in life that are certain are death and taxes. Like you look at any English figure of speech, a lot of it's to do with suffering. Life is short and then you die. We're here for a good time, not a long time. The music, the culture, the slogans, and the jargon is very death-oriented, morbidity, sport, combat, war, debt-oriented, which is probably good because people in this environment, this prison-like work, culture, cult environment, are dying, really, and they're all sick. So they might as well have sayings that reveal the truth without having to think about TVs themselves. Oh yeah, hey son, life is short and then you die. Oh thanks dad. I'm gonna have another cigarette and blow myself. You don't have sayings like constant joy, and when it stops, it's because somebody's fucking hurting you, and you should use your above the crowd and say, "That's fucking wrong, motherfuckers. It's time you gave your head a fucking like Lord fucking Buddha himself." But no, we don't have sayings like that. We just all go like little mice. Oh, life is short until you get old and you crap your pants. I did the best I could. Do the same thing, strength. And I'm a good example of that. But anyone who has a voice has something to add to the world, period. Anyone who just wants to the top of a book or a page or a computer screen any day of their life and say, all I did today was a question or write a poem or a song or pound my fist on the keyboard until I everything you do could be dedicated to answering that question of having a voice is enough. It has to be. It has to be. You don't breathe, but that your breath has to be enough for you. You understand? That's not a war, it's a joy. It's a struggle, but it's a joy. It's your first job. Breathe. As Dickens says, you take on the office of respiration. Your first job, your first responsibility is to breathe. Think about it. Powerful. When I said, like, where do you come from? You come from the need to breathe. You become from the need to spread your wings. You come from the need to get hungry again and again and again, as though you had never eaten ever before. And you had been dashed upon the rocks of oblivion, alone, loveless, doomed, more alone, more loveless. What is love but that which speaks to the deepest of hungers? The deepest of hungers. And if you are not honest about that hunger, how is your love ever going to be true? I just bypassed all religion. I just bypassed all society by being true to hunger. You see? That's the sound of the Spirit, because I spoke of this and the spirit of its hunger. You can go to the fridge and get food like before. Look at your children. They hunger as though they've never eaten before. You take them out to a restaurant and you look around you because people think that your children have been starving the way they fucking eat. Those aren't starving children. Those are hungry children. Those are healthy children. Can I have 10 more burgers, Daddy? I know that's not explicitly true, but you get the idea. Anyone who's had a child knows how much they can eat. Maybe we're just in denial about how much we eat every day. I don't want a child. I can't feed another me. I'll convince the mother to at the age of 6. We can save so much money on food. Oh, just keep using your tits, honey. I don't want to buy any food. Her nipples will turn to leather. They have calluses on them. So, female energy is created. It's one of the. We don't discover such things to different words because our voice and our spirit can do that. When you find meaning, you could put old things into new words, new clothing, you might say, new flesh for the spirit, which is the sound. What is sound is spirit. So if I say female energy is the most creative energy, I've made something sound. I've given new flesh to the spirit of those words, and to the spirit of creation. I've said the spirit of creation is female in nature. And you know what? That's a good thing. God isn't good. Shreddies isn't good, holy Shreddies. Women, in terms of pure female creative energy, are really good. They should be good. We should all be good with that. It doesn't feel that way because it's been perverted for economic purposes and for war. If you're true to female creative energy, we would have no violence. Because that's been perverted, we met people who are psychotic. We've met people who aren't what we think they are. We've met people whose personality disorders and whose religions and various groups seem to all work together better for them than for us. And it's scary to think there's issues that as we try to bond and trust other people and say in the name of healing or spirit, the opposite of what we're looking for. It seems exactly what we're looking for. Our heart's very desire to be part of something good for humanity because we know how hard living can be. We don't want to focus on it, work hard, be a part of something good, all those positive things that we can see lots of people like. And then you see it has a dark side. Now, people aren't as talkative. It's like a war because intelligence about what's happened in that SMI is a little thin on the ground. Because information about how humans behave badly is hard to find. Psychiatry, conspiracy, books on, I'm sure, mass propaganda, advertising, maybe brain development, psychosis. Just like there's all kinds of stuff. It's not really all connected, not for the average person. Humans, if you read, that's why it's good to read a variety of things. because then the human brain is good at putting it together if you have time. You know? And you could talk to people and see, how much they are of the world. How much have you put it together, about, what's around us. I don't so much see things, that's the Illuminati or that's evil, but most of what I actually see that I don't like is behavior toward me. And I'm so glad that my mom is now on side with me. She understands. I've explained it to her. I've enjoyed the opportunity to learn the positive side of that dark experience. To describe on YouTube or to my mom specifically, especially, as I learned that I don't feel good about how women treat me. And it makes me feel sick and it lowers my quality of life. And I want it to stop. And it makes me very angry sometimes. And I don't want to lash out at women. I never have. But as I get older, and my patience is starting to wear thin, and I know the day is going to come when I'm going to lash out at a female. And I'm really worried about it. I think I have once or twice already. Because, women can be really bad. And it's not entirely their fault that this world, we have a few English sayings like, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. To really comprehend that a woman's voice when she's angry is more dangerous than a man's. And people seem very ignorant of what it feels like to be yelled at by a woman or to be aggressed in any way by a female, and how lethal that is, how poisonous it is, how words like murderous should probably enter in. To me, the first murderer is the murderess. It is the murdering female, unfortunately, which is the very angry female. That's why we have this idea of the female death goddess, like Kali. Maybe a variation on Loki, I don't know. The dark side of the creator, the coyote, the trickster. Things don't go the way you think they are. So let's just go over again. Female energy, creative energy. Talk about things that should be put in a virtual containment away from real women because it could be offensive. I don't want to encourage any kind of bad energy toward women or existing energy. That's not good for them. But female energy is the creative energy of the universe. And when energy is violent, when it is most violent, it's usually most female. I don't think it has to be. I don't think we have to say, oh, that translates into, the female world. I'm just saying that the dark side of creative energy, which is female, would, logically be destructive energy. At that point, it doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it says that it could be. As much as humans know that as humans, as divine beings, we misuse anger at times. Doesn't mean we don't have the right to be angry. I'm sure any time anyone's been angry, they've had a very good reason to be. It doesn't mean that the energy or the destructive energy is being directed at the right person. Right? For the very reason that this video, right? You could say, even if I had a reason to be concerned about such things, I shouldn't be directing any bad energy at anyone, right? You would say that would be unethical. Right? We don't expect it because most people are really lazy, but you'd be like, okay, really, you should be careful about what you say. So I have to rely upon my sense of judgment, what it sounds like. I have to be able to improve. I have to be able to be wrong. I have to be able to be rude. I have to be able to be a misogynist. I have to be able to be some unconscious, psychopathic, patriarchal rapist who doesn't know it. Just another ignorant man who doesn't know what a postulant cunt bag he is. I could be any of those things. If you would permit me, and I don't wish to sucker punch anyone rhetorically here, but just for this, so it's a bit tricky, so I apologize, but I would also tell you, in a way that doesn't negate what I just said, and its validity, but I've also been physically harmed by women. Okay? I've also been raped by women. And I also understand that in discussing things as a human being, how could I not have emotions and anger to do with that? Connected to my survival or my mother, or difficult primal conditions, because anytime something in life we don't like, chances are it goes back to our childhood, right? But that doesn't mean that other people haven't done things wrong. It just means that there are almost like energetic patterns set up. When certain conditions aren't met for the sensory apparatus of a child, it enters into operations which succeed or follow orders of development now that have to sustain what you could call a shock to the system. So you start off as like a really peaceful Switzerland country, and your sensory apparatus suddenly has to do everything that a brain has to do, but also fund the US military. Like an autoimmune disorder. It's like when something happens that we can discuss, say, to children born in Western economic civilization, which is not an innocuous field of differing powerful mental that compel billions of people to think and behave and do things whose cumulative cost they have not retained the ability or the desire to ever comprehend. Because they'd probably die. In which case, it's better to die slowly than all at once from shock. Okay? That's modern human existence at a deep, deep psychological level. Economics works. People have to be born to die. They have to be willing to slowly kill themselves. Right? Not absolutely. Okay, to balance out these words or this magic. Not every day, not in every way. Maybe not so much for you, maybe not so much for me. But if we look at large groups of people, humans are lethally damned everywhere you go in human history, including the 21st century. Humans are sick. Like, everything we do makes us sick. It's amazing people can walk around and be like, I recycle all my plastic. The world is less sick because of me. When virtually no plastic is recycled. It's a scam, right? It's a total scam. It's a religion. But people need things to do to feel like they can control. It's like, oh, the globe is not going to burn us or freeze us alive if I drive my biodiesel truck every day. It's incredible the way people think, and they still think they're thinking, right? You got places in the world where so much human effluent is entering into the Earth's body that it's entering into our bloodstream. And vaccination programs make sure that thousands and thousands of carcinogenic materials and hazardous biologicals go into the human bloodstream all over the earth every day. We are poison experts. Okay? We become an organ of poison. Okay? Humans deal in black magic, denial, group psychology, perverted sex energy every day of their lives. You know, it's the medium of exchange, because economics has created female creative energy and the voice of man. Right? The silencing of the voice, the violation of the voice, all the violence to follow. That is the fundamental basis for all of the exploits and of the entire economic reality of human beings. It's all based on denying the spirit, denying the voice of a child, which is why we so lovingly treat children like children. And when you get older, you say, don't treat me like a child. We should be saying things like, oh, I love it when you treat me like a child. Because when people treat me like a child, they treat me in the best way possible. Right? Why do we say in English, you're treating me like a child? Why? What are people doing usually when they're treating us like a child? Or when we say that? We're really saying they're treating us like, what? A victim. They're treating us like someone who doesn't have a voice, right? They're treating us the way they themselves have been treated and find us in error to how you're supposed to behave because you were first treated like a child. And so they're erring on the side of treating you like a child, like you don't have a voice of your own. Do you understand? All crime, all violence comes from treating someone like a child. Think about that. That's Western civilization, right? The last thing you want to do is treat your children the way people typically treat their children. But we would have to all stop doing that all at once. Nobody wants to start treating their children properly. No one wants to be the first person in 1,000 years to respect their child. Nobody wants to do that. So people have sex, people focus on all kinds of shit all of their lives, but their focal point, their real, true, integrated focus of their mind is never how to fucking treat a child. You would think that would be the number one job and occupation in the world, given what people suffer from. Incredible. Like, there should be more people dedicated to listening to their own fucking, because morality is something that you're born with as a child by being in an environment where you can say what you know. And to do that, you have to have a fucking voice. The more you have a voice, the more moral you become. But it doesn't make life easier because nobody has a voice. People don't have to have a voice to have 3 homes and generations of hardworking, happy children. They don't need to have voices. Voices, choices. Right? But when you look around the choicest of families, you look at the mosaic of the collective, the group, and what the accumulation of these labors and these exploits come to meet out, and how things turn out for other people for reasons that aren't immediately clear, the successes of a well-oiled middle-class family generations start to look a little less amazing, right? So when life at its best looks a lot less, when you look a little more deeply than groups of people are supposed to, right? That tells you something about the world. It makes you cynical, it makes you suspicious, but chances are if somebody appreciates what I'm saying, they've already noticed that trusting people is a really tall order, not just because there are so many are so untrustworthy, but it's like it just seems like too much to ask of human beings who have to live and perform tasks while laboring under so many difficult economic and psychological forces all of their lives, that you're better off not having a voice of your own. Because according to some of the greatest thinkers in all time, sustaining some desire to have that voice is the hardest thing that ever happens to most people. It's the last thing you want. Become what are called neurotic and depressed. People like me. Neurotic, depressed, intelligent people who have developed a level of morality which allows them to live simply. If you want to live simply, you have to be moral. You understand? I don't have the luxury of being immoral. If I want to be supported by the earth, I have to be aware that every day is moral. I have more responsibilities than most people have because I have the power of a human voice. Right? It makes me a very powerful person. Like the eagle. But you can shoot me, can't you? The eagle is vulnerable to the hunter. Hi. Beautiful birds. I was aghast actually twice in my life when I heard any reference to people hunting eagles. I was like, what the fuck? It'd be like telling me that you went around and found Lamborghinis or Ferraris and poured boric acid all over them. I just like, why would you do that? It's such a beautiful thing. So there's nothing so strong in this world, you'll notice, that people can't fucking rape or kill it. Humans, in their sort of shadow side, hearts, take a lot of pride in hurting other people. And when most people in violence, and I could describe a lot of areas you don't expect to see it, but a lot of areas you should. For instance, when there's a lot of women working in the same office, you're going to see a lot more violence to men. It's just going to happen. Right? The estrogen starts to make them, under the influence, say, of the economic perversions of the female, which means like all of the stuff that happens to women, how that accumulates and whacks the hell out of women over here and men over there, and maybe we do it to an awful, awful roiling mess. It's a war of the sexes. We call it for a reason, right? It's an artifact of the costs of group psychology organized under the gods of commerce. Right? The thoughts that you're living out, the thoughts that define your world. Right? Thoughts about life, thoughts about you. So you have to wonder, if you look at your world in civilization, schools, the citadels of justice, that if you squeeze them into their biggest, most powerful thought, well, it gives a single pip shit about you, or thinks about you the way that you think that it should, or that you would ever think about yourself or your own children. And the answer is no, right? And so I wonder that people do not struggle when they do to know